Hello, everyone. Dr. Vicky here, speaking to you from the Seeds of Transformation Healing Center. We're going to look at the astrology of the first 9 days, I think it is, of June 2024. As we move into this new energy of June, we have a boatload of Gemini energy. Of course, the most well, not necessarily significant, but kind of significant, is that Jupiter at the end of May moved into Gemini. And so we have Jupiter, the planet of expansion, the planet of understanding, the planet that in its way educates us and helps us to come up with a series of philosophical perspectives that help us live our life in a more expanded way, is going to be in the sign of communication and duality and curiosity. So we have a year of that. And then, of course, eventually, Uranus is going to move into Gemini. So this is a bit of a preview in its way of what 7 years of Uranus and Gemini might actually be like. So we'll strap in for that, right? Okay, so let's get started. We'll get started with the video, the PowerPoint. Before I get into that, I want to welcome everybody to this. I want to welcome my new subscribers, and I want to welcome back my tried and true folks who have been following me for years, walking through the garden with me in the morning, pondering the stars, evaluating what's going on politically, culturally, in various ways through astrology and Kabbalah and the tarot cards. So welcome back and welcome everybody. So let's jump right in if we can here. Alrighty. So just to give fair warning, there's a lot going on in the first 9 days of June. So this may be longer. And what I will attempt to do is put some timestamps with days, with the days. So if you want to come back to this video, you can and look at the specific day that you're interested in. Okay. So we're looking at the astrology from June 1st to June 8th. So let's move on. Okay, so the first major aspects, we do have a lovely sextile between the sun and the moon on the 1st of June. I haven't listed it. There's so much going on with sort of longer term cycles. But that sextile to the sun and the moon opens the lines of communication. We sort of start the month with the moon in Aries, and of course the sun in Gemini. And so we are sharing what we know. We're sharing what we understand about the world with that particular um, uh, relationship between the sun and the moon. And it is part of the lunation cycle that began with the new moon in the new moon in Taurus back in May. So that particular new moon lunation is still at work. We don't get into the next lunation until we get to the new moon, which is actually occurring during this period of time we're going to talk about. It occurs on the 6/6 portal, as it were. All right, so on Sunday, the 2nd, we do have quite a bit of things happening. The first thing that happens on Sunday is Mars makes a conjunction to Eris at 26 degrees of Aries. I don't speak of Eris all that much. It is a relatively new planet and a new archetype that we've been working with. I believe Eris was discovered in 2006. I know that it was definitely during the might have been 2003, but it was definitely during the Little Bush administration. And of course, Eris is the goddess of discord. And there was plenty of discord back then, I can tell you, especially coming from me. Um, but we've only been working with Eris for a little while. There is a great book called The 10th Planet by Henry Seltzer on Eris. He connects Eris with um, people who are revolutionary, rebellious, um, uh, do not do not cotton to things like elitism, very much a sort of a people's energy, but a disruptive energy at that. And of course, when Mars makes a conjunction to a goddess associated with rebellion and strife, we can expect that June is not going to be a quiet month if this is the way we're starting. We also have on the 2nd June, June. We also have on the 2nd of June, Jupiter making a trine, Jupiter just newly in Gemini, making a trine to Pluto in Aquarius. Now, every time a planet has moved into Gemini, it has had to, the next thing that happens is it makes a trine to Pluto. That's the next aspect. Trines are flow and powerful flow. And we're dealing with Pluto, the planet of the soul, the planet of the world soul in Aquarius, the sign of the people, of equality, of humanity and humanitarianism. And it makes a trine to the planet associated with expansion. So I am really hoping that we see a greater expansion of resources to places like Gaza and Sudan and other places in the world that are really struggling to keep their populations from starving to death, really. So hopefully that is the case. We also would, and this also would help this case, this particular case I'm talking about, right? Mercury making a waxing sextile to Neptune. Mercury is the planet of communication, and Neptune is the planet of spirit, and sextiles open the lines of communication. We are opening the lines of the communication at the last degree of both Taurus and Pisces, right? So we're at the end of Taurus, we're at the end of Pisces, and we have this sextile that opens the lines of communications, and hopefully we will hear the voices of those in need. That day vibrates to the tower. So there's that. On the 3rd, we have Mercury ingress into Gemini. Now, Mercury is it rules Gemini. Gemini is a mercurial sign, as is Virgo. And so with this Mercury ingressing into Gemini, Mercury is in a very powerful position. And then the next day, it makes that trine to Pluto I talked about. So we have a lot of communication. Hopefully this can also be some peace talks. We could certainly use some peace talks in all areas, wherever there are disruptions. This is an opportunity for us to have our voices heard, or have something heard anyway. And on the same day as that powerful trine between Mercury, the planet of communication, and Pluto, the planet of the soul, we also have Mercury conjoined Jupiter, right? Mercury and Jupiter are moving very close together. They make a conjunction at 2 degrees of Gemini. So to say, like the end of the month, of last month, we had this rush of Gemini energy, and it's continuing and just continuously sort of building upon itself. Now, remember, Gemini is a sign associated with data and facts and discernment, right? Deciding what is true and what is not true. Gemini is the opposite sign of Sag. Sag is about what we believe. Gemini, to a certain extent, is what the data shows us for us to learn from. All right. We also have on that day, the 4th, a Venus superior conjunction to the Sun. Venus, what a superior conjunction means is that Venus and the Sun are at the same degree, but Venus is actually direct as opposed to being retrograde. We can also have Venus conjunct the Sun when Venus is retrograde. This is actually the Venus star point starting in Gemini. This is occurring at 25 degrees of Gemini. On Thursday, the 6th, 6-6, the 6-6 portal, we have the new moon is it 17 degrees of Gemini? Hold on 1 second. I just need to move something here. At 17 degrees of Gemini, the head of a robust youth changes into that of a mature thinker. So this is hopefully planting the seeds for us to become more mature in our thinking process. And we know that there are a lot of people think in a somewhat infantile way, a simplistic way, because it's in a way it's all they can do in some cases, but it's also a little bit of a lazy way, right? Okay. And then on that day, we have two sesquiquadrates, excuse me, to Pluto, Venus first, and then the Sun. Of course, Venus and the Sun just conjoined. Venus moves on a little bit faster than the Sun. So Venus moves up with Pluto on that next day, making a sesquiquadrate. We'll talk about what that means. And then the Sun follows up on that day on the 6-6 portal. The 6-6 portal also vibrates to a 20/2, which is the judgment card, an inevitable uncovering of something. So something is being uncovered. Incidentally, 6-6 is Jack Smith's birthday. So happy birthday, Jack. And then on Saturday, this week has been kind of a sort of robust, a lot of expansion, a lot of power, a lot of that. And then, but on Saturday, the 8th, we do have Venus make a first quarter square to Saturn. That sort of puts, I wouldn't say the kibosh on things, but makes things quite serious. It makes us perhaps pause and really sort of figure out how we're going to move forward with all of this new information, perhaps, that we have, new values, that a new sense of self-worth gets challenged with that square. But we'll go into each one of these as we go. And if we look over here, these are the vibrations of the day. This is where they fall on the tree of life. We see this month that we have the conjunction of the Sun and the Moon. That actually activates this path, the 14-5 path, which happens to be the path of June 2024. So this new moon, these Venus-Sun sesquiquadrates, because they are happening, well, actually, the new moon is especially potent. The other ones are potent as well, but not necessarily numerologically. And then we start the month, right? We start this month with the 16-7 tower vibration, and that is a solar plexus vibration. So people really want, we're going to know what people want. We're going to know what people want and what people need. All right, let's talk about Mars conjuncting Eris at 26 degrees of Aries. Now, I have this looks a little bit more complex than usual, more planets here. We have the asteroids here, but I have it here because we have Eris, and you see the Sun, Mars and Eris conjunct. Now, this is a chart for the US. This is erected for Washington, D.C. So this, in a way, is how the United States is sort of experiencing this energy. We have the 6th house here. The 6th house is a house associated with health and pets and military service. And we have Mars conjunct Eris. This is a rebellious energy. Conjunct the moon. The moon in these mundane charts are the people. So, and then we also have Chiron here, also close. This is Chiron, the moon, Eris, Mars. There is what, about 3 degrees different. This is called a stellium. And we could even include the North Node here in Aries, creating the stellium. And of course, if we remember, the North Node in Aries is about us moving in the direction of our unique self or authenticity. Okay. All right. So this is where on the tree of life, this is where the vibration of the day sits, the 16-7. If we come here, we can see that we have, this is the planet Eris, and here's Chiron. So Eris, Chiron. There's the Aries sign. There's the North Node. Now, of course, we also have Mars and the Moon here. I ran out of room. Anyway, this is the path that gets activated with all of this Aries energy. And this is the path that connects the Sephiroth of the divine masculine, Chokmah, with the Sephiroth of the Sun, Sonsun. This is the third eye. This is the heart chakra, and this is really a connection between here and here, right? What you see and what you feel and what you see. So this is called on the tree of life, the 16th path on the tree of life, the constituting intelligence, that which creates all of existence. This is the Emperor card, right? This is the Emperor card. So this is how we create our reality. This is a highly, highly creative time. And it behooves us to focus on that which we want to create, not what we don't want to see. So you don't want to focus on perhaps the problems as much as focusing on the solutions to the problem. Okay. So if we look at 26 degrees of Aries, where this conjunction is happening, and Eris moves very slowly. So she moved into Aries back in 1925. So I'm 62, am I? 62 years old, and my Eris in my chart is at like 11 degrees of Aries, and Eris is now at 25 degrees, 26 degrees of Aries. So in 62 years, it hasn't really moved that long, although Eris has an orbit that is quite elliptical. And so it spends its most time in the sign of Aries. There are other signs that it doesn't spend that much time. I don't, my mother, Angelina, who some of you may have known, she had her Eris in the last degree of Pisces, and she was born in 1920. So this is something that moves very slowly. And it is a revolutionary planet. But when we add the energy of Mars and we add the energy of Chiron, which comes around to Aries every 52 years, we know that this is a special opportunity. A man possessed of more gifts than he can hold, a warning against overstretching, danger of becoming obsessed by a range of life's possibilities, avoiding overwhelm by development of discrimination. Now, Gemini is all about discrimination. So here's another indication of discrimination. It is very unsettling to find ourselves awakened to life as a constant spiritual experience. Rules and restrictions also operate on this level, and we have to relearn what we may or may not attempt. We are calmly, with a high degree of caution, we move forward calmly with a high degree of caution as we encounter examinations and trials of the highest order or of the higher order. So this is really speaking to us about the laws of nature. The laws of nature. I mean, we have man's law, which is usually and mostly very, very slow and often not correct. There was a time when slavery in America was legal. That is not correct. There was a time when a woman's right to her privacy and what she does with her body was legal. That was correct. It is no longer like that right now in certain places. So it doesn't mean just because it's law that it is in alignment with natural law. So that's a consideration as we go through. So this is very powerful and also a very powerful time for rebellion and revolution. And I would say instead of revolving, why don't we evolve? Now, the next thing we're going to look at for this day is when Jupiter trines Pluto. Now, this is interesting because this aspect is part of the synodic cycle of Pluto and Jupiter, which runs about, I think, 13 years, 13 or 4, well, it depends, 13, 14 years. Pluto has a varied cycle through signs, so it's but at this time, I think it's right around 13 years. And these two planets actually had their conjunction of the synod that they're in. Again, a synod is the time it takes for two planets to conjunct and for them to come back around and come back to the same degree, not the same degree they originally conjuncted at, but further along in the zodiac. And that actually happened in 2020, it happened 3 times. Pluto made conjunctions to Jupiter. This was during the pandemic, the COVID pandemic, and every time we had a conjunction of Jupiter and and um, and Pluto, which I said was 3 times, there was the COVID numbers went way up, right? It was sort of like three's a charm, unfortunately, not for the people who were harmed by the charm, right? But it is, Pluto is an archetype of death and rebirth, and Jupiter is an archetype of expansion. Now, we are in the trine part of this relationship, and that is a flow of energy, the process of transforming our beliefs, letting go of those which no longer serve your evolutionary purpose. The initial conjunction of this synod began in 2020, of which there were 3 at 25 and 23 degrees of Capricorn. Incidentally, there was the Saturn Pluto conjunction that occurred in 2020 as well, and that actually occurred at 23 degrees of Capricorn. So that was a very active degree at that time. Now we have Pluto at 2 degrees of Aquarius, the Sabian symbol for 2 degrees. 2 degrees of Aquarius is an unexpected thunderstorm. All life is ephemeral. Even though we want to cement our lives into secure structures, nature always wins in the end. Submission to unseen forces and uncontrollable forces. That's the Sabian symbol for 2 degrees of Aquarius, where Pluto's sitting for a while and making these aspects, right? And we have it in a flowing, creative, and expressive trine to Jupiter, the planet of expansion, at 2 degrees of Gemini, Santa Claus furtively filling stockings hanging in front of a fireplace. This is described as spiritual blessings, a childlike openness to the possibilities of the wonders brings unexpected gifts as though miraculously, really. And so with all this power and unexpected energy, which of course, first of all, we're dealing with Pluto, which tends to be unexpected energy. And we're dealing with the symbol that at 2 degrees of Aquarius, which talks about unexpected energy. And then, of course, we're looking at the tower, which is unexpected, right? So these tower moments are here to awaken us to who we truly are. We are spirit having a human experience, and we need to connect with that spirit, with that higher self, okay, with our own souls, and shine our light so that we can be the light of the world. We are the people we have been waiting for. Okay, let's move on here. And then let's talk about this sextile between Neptune and Mercury. It is the start of the synodic cycle that began. This is part of the synodic cycle that began at the Mercury-Neptune conjunction was at 28 degrees of Pisces on the 8th of March. Incidentally, that day vibrated to a 19-1, which is the sun, which is an illumination. It's a new beginning. So we had a new beginning of the synodic cycle, which lasts a year under the vibration of illumination and a new beginning. So this is about a new consciousness. And it says, a fertile garden under a full moon. Enough is a feast. Enough is a feast. And so this is about really understanding what do we really need and what is enough for us. As somebody who tends to, well, of course I'm older, so when you're younger, you think that, if you get stuff and you buy stuff and you surround yourself with the things that bring you happiness, that you're going to be happy. It's nice to be surrounded by the things that you appreciate and that you love, but it doesn't make you happy. And you get at a certain point, I think, in life, and you decide that, well, if I'm going to be happy, happiness is an inside job. There's nothing on the outside that can help. Although I'll tell you, it's easier to be happy when you are not completely like overcome and overwhelmed with trying to make it, right? So there's that. But pretty much happiness really is something that you have to find inside of yourself. And as you do that, you will attract the things, I think, that make you happy. You just have to decide what that might be. So now Mercury's at 30 degrees of Taurus, a peacock parading on an ancient lawn. This is a symbol of embellishment, right? Of having more, of having the beauty surrounding you and the like. Very, very Taurian, especially at the end of Taurus. Sextile Neptune at 30 degrees of Pisces, the great stone face, becoming our own ideal. We become what we idealize. Okay. Be very careful about what you idealize. You're best to idealize your own sense of self, connected to your soul and connected to your higher self, not necessarily who you think you are on the outside. That's what the tower is here to show us, that those facades, those on this, on that self-importance, that sense of I'm on the top of the world. Well, people on top of the world here are coming down. So this really requires us to decide what it is that is important to us, I think, and how best to live our values without taking too much, All right, Mercury moves into Gemini, and this vibration is a 17-8 vibration on this day. This is the star card. This is a day to dream. This is a day to meditate. This is a day to throw your fishing line into the great cosmic sea and see what comes back. Gemini is powerful Mercury is powerful in Gemini. It is an energy of curiosity. It's an energy of communication. It can be information overload. I'm reminded of the song by The Police that when I was studying in college, after like studying for hours and hours, that song, too much information running through my brain, too much information driving me insane. That used to like go in my head, and I would go to sleep with that in my head. But I did pretty good on the test, so it wasn't too bad. This is the chart for the US. And where is Mercury here? Here's Mercury right here. And we see how close it is to Jupiter, right? And we see that it's in trine to Pluto. It's not quite exact yet, but it is exact on the 4th, where we have Mercury make a trine to Pluto. This vibrates to an 18-9 vibration. The 18-9 is the moon card in the tarot. This can be a little bit cray-cray. The moon card can manifest itself in some lunacy. Can also manifest itself as something that was hidden comes to the surface, right? So we might see things coming to the surface. And with Mercury trining Pluto, certainly things will come to the surface. Again, we are dealing with an unexpected thunderstorm and Santa filling our stockings. So this could really be what seems like a disaster to some people, could be a boom for others. That is something worth considering. Mercury trine Pluto, creative self-expression of the soul to the attentive mind. Part of the Mercury-Pluto synod that began at the conjunction at 1 degree of Aquarius on February 5th of 2024. So these trines to Pluto harken back to when these planets made conjunctions to Pluto, and that occurred in February, if you remember, right around the time that Navalny was found dead. We'll call it that, right? All right. We can expect to hear from Putin at this time, just as an aside. All right. Let's see. Okay, so where's the trine? Here's Pluto, and and here's Mercury. Mercury in the house for the US anyway of the media. So this is going to be an information-packed day. And then on the same day, we have Mercury make a conjunction to Jupiter. This occurs at 3 degrees of Gemini. Mercury has moved on a bit. The Garden of Tuileries, which is probably not how you say it in French, so apologies, in Paris, even though we can touch the depths of unconscious and the heights of superconsciousness by suspending the mind's devotion to reason, this cannot last indefinitely. Sooner or later, the grasping mind must structure its perceptions and create patterns to explain them. This is thought form. It gives rise to the rulership and rituals as it centralizes the ego into the discipline of clarity. This is about having a clear mind, a clear vision. Now, these Jupiter, Mercury synods are interesting because Jupiter rules the intuitive side of the brain and Mercury rules the logical reasoning side of the brain. And so at this time, both the right and the left hemispheres are on the same page. Mercury will eventually move away from Jupiter, and then again, they come back together next year. I don't know if it's happening. It might actually be happening in Jupiter. I don't know. I didn't look. If it's not happening in Jupiter, it's happening in Cancer. All right. This is the path that gets activated on the 18-9. Okay. And here we have Venus. This is the Sephiroth of Venus. This is the Sephiroth of the Earth. We have Venus in Gemini. We have the Earth in Sag. The Earth is always opposite the Sun. The Sun is in Gemini. We can see that right here. Okay, we also see this conjunction here, and that's what we're going to look at here. The Venus superior conjunction to the Sun. This is the Venus star point in Gemini. The Sabian symbol for 15 degrees of Gemini. 2 Dutch children talking. Validation is the theme. Received messages are not free from the bias of subjective interpretation. So we should get confirmation if we can, confirmation and validation. So this is really listening to perhaps different sources of information, because not everybody's getting the same information. It does require, to a certain extent, us to be connected to our own intuition in these situations. That's always very helpful, of course, and Jupiter rules intuition. And so we are we need to intuit these things, actually. All right. Now let's take a look at this new moon that's happening in the sign of Gemini. It's happening at 17 degrees of Gemini. It says the head of a robust youth changes into that of a mature thinker. Rational persuasion. Using mature and well-reasoned argument to bring another to an unemotional understanding. Recognition of our youthful emotions and the maturing towards wisdom. So this is us having rational discussions with people to come to some sort of understanding. It's very interesting. This is all happening in the 11th house here. And of course, if we look at the ruler of Gemini, which I always do when we have a new moon in a sign, we're looking at Mercury. And what is Mercury? Where is Mercury? Well, Mercury's at 7 degrees of Gemini. A well with a bucket and a rope under the shade of majestic trees, trusting in life, trusting in life. To those in right relationship with life, basic requirements are freely given, trusting in life and relying upon nature. We really do need to have a much better conversation with nature. We are moving in the right direction. Thank God. Thank God. that actually Biden got in the last election, because we've had a lot of progress working towards that Green New Deal, the green economy, which we would have not gotten anywhere near had he not won. So we're grateful for that. Um, this is asking us to connect with nature, to connect with nature. All right. So along with this new moon, we have two sesquiquadrates. Now, I don't talk about sesquiquadrates very often. This is what a sesquiquadrate would look like in a chart. So if you're wondering what it looks like when you're looking at your aspectarian, this is what it looks like. It's a 135-degree aspect. You can have a waxing sesquiquadrate or a waning sesquiquadrate. This is a waxing. So this is a growing. This is the two planets are, we have the focal planet, which is the slower moving planet. In this case, it's going to be Pluto because it moves the slowest. And we have the other planets moving away from it in a waxing to eventually full. But we come to this point. Now, the waxing sesquiquadrate, a 135-degree aspect, is the height of ego expression. This degree in a natural zodiac would correspond to the 15th degree of Leo, right in the middle of the fixed signs. It demarcates the fourth evolutionary gateway planets move through in their phasal relationship to each other. So as planets move along the circle from conjunction to conjunction, there are parts that are known as evolutionary gateways. They're all 45 degrees apart. And so we have the initial conjunction, that's the first gateway. And then we have a semi-square, that's the second gateway. Then we have a square, that's the third gateway. And now we get to the sesquiquadrate, which is the fourth gateway. This is considered an ego-busting reversal, starting the next phase, the gibbous phase. Now, the gibbous phase has the energy of Virgo, okay, in which we attempt to perfect our creations, to bring them out into the world, which occurs at the next gateway, which is the opposition or the full phase. That's when we take whatever was seated at the initial conjunction and put it out into the world. And then it's up to, then the next few gateways are how that creation, how the fruit of that labor gets expressed and disseminated through the larger world. So we're still kind of in a very internal process at this time. Now Pluto at 2 degrees of Aquarius, an unexpected thunderstorm, is sesquiquadrate both Venus and the Sun at 17 degrees of Gemini. That's the same degree as the new moon, right? So we see that this new moon is sesquiquadrate Pluto, really. So, and we go back to this, to the symbol, the head of a robust man, head of a robust youth changes into that of a mature thinker. Now, the reason that I put both of these on the same page is because I want to point out, and this is the vibration of the day. So let's not forget, this is the apocalypse, the uncovering. This is Gabriel tooting his horn, waking us up to the fact that we are not simply ego or personality, but that we are souls and that we are connected to something greater than ourselves. We're waking up. This is the vibration of the awakened soul. When we moved into the year 2000, we moved into this vibration. Okay, the two is about being aware of the other. And the other, of course, can be the person across the room from you, or it can be the higher self. And so this is, or it can be both. And so this is us really connecting with our higher spiritual self to help us navigate this new world that we're in. We're in a new world, and we have to learn how to relate to our world in a very different way than we had previously related. And most of the trauma and the drama that we see now is due to inappropriate relating to other people and to ourselves and to our own internal masculine and feminine. So the initial conjunction that occurred for Venus was at 1 degree of Aquarius. This happened in February, right? That day was a 27-9 vibration, which is the Ace of Wands, the birth, right? The Ace of Spirit. Okay, so we are handed the wand of life or the staff of life from the hand of God in any of those aces, right? That's what we see. So this is a time for a new beginning, a new spiritual understanding. That was the initial conjunction of and Venus and Pluto. And of course, it's at the 1st degree of Aquarius, which is the same degree that Saturn and Jupiter conjoined uh, at the end of 2020 when we started a whole new social cycle with the social planets, right? To start a whole new way of structuring our world, our society. We're being asked to construct our society in a different way. And that began at 1 degree of Aquarius. And now we had all these conjunctions of Mercury and Venus and Mars back in February with Pluto at that 1st degree. And now we come to this sesquiquadrate, we come to this point of an evolutionary gateway in which we have to get off our high horse, really, and have a little bit of a tumble in order for us to perfect it so that it's no longer just about us, but it's about how we're going to relate. That gibbous relationship between these two planets is really perfecting a way to be aware that there is somebody else in the room, or perfecting your awareness of your own higher self. And then we also have the sun. Now, the interesting thing about the sun is it did not make a conjunction to Pluto at the 1st degree of Aquarius. It actually made a conjunction to Pluto at the last, very, very last 29, 59 degrees of Capricorn. And this degree of Capricorn, Pluto is going to go back into that degree, and it's going to be there from September 1st to Joe Biden's birthday, November 20th, 2024. So about 3 months, it's going to be in that last degree. And that's going to be significant for us as well. And in fact, I believe the opposition, is that going to be true? Is the opposition between, no, it's not going to happen then, right? It's got to be this, it's going to be in Leo. Okay. So very significant. I think the opposition might be Mars, but just forget I said that. So the initial conjunction happened at 30 degrees of Capricorn. So the Sabian symbol for this is different than the Sabian symbol we had for Venus, right? So we have a secret meeting of men responsible for executive decisions in world affairs. And that occurred on the 20th of January. The conjunction occurred. Hi, Charlie. The conjunction occurred. And right after that conjunction, the sun moved into Aquarius and then Pluto moved into Aquarius the same day. Big shifts. Remember, February was a big shift. Well, that was January. That started at the end of January, and then February was another giant shift. All right. So these are hopefully you understand what I'm trying to communicate here. All right. Charlie needs love and at the very, very moment, at this very second. All right. And let's talk about the last thing. Now, this vibration, this day, June 8th, vibrates to a 22-4. That is the Fool card. So this is about a leap of faith. This is the 22-4 is Master Spiritual Builder. It is associated with the planet Uranus. So something sudden, something unexpected. There's a lot of unexpected things coming up for us. And we have Venus make a 1st-quarter square to Saturn. Now, Venus and Saturn have their own synodic cycle. That synodic cycle began back on March 21st, 2024 at 13 degrees of Pisces. And the Sabian symbol for that is, I think it's kissing my ear, is a sword in a museum. This is Excalibur. Only Arthur could put out Excalibur. You have to be you have to have the right energy to lift the sword, right? And so single pointed certainty of purpose. That was the initial conjunction of Saturn and Venus, saying you must have a single pointed certainty of purpose. What is your purpose? If you have no idea what your purpose is, get a reading. It helps. It really does. I think you know your purpose, but sometimes other people tell you who you're supposed to be. And in fact, uh, it's not necessarily who you truly are. So when Saturn squares Venus, we feel as if our needs aren't being met, creating a crisis that requires us to act. This is a crisis in action square. We are here to foster a sense of self-worth in our approach to life. Heavy responsibilities and choosing obligation over love can be an issue. First quarter squares are about taking action to build foundations for yourself based on your true sense of values and often getting your essential needs met. So what is it that you truly need? What is most important to you? How are you going to build foundations for that? It is a lot of heavy lifting. And Venus is kind of like a fun planet. Venus wants to have fun. And Saturn says you can't have fun until you have a stable foundation. And so you might have to, if you had plans to, oh, I don't know, go shopping or do something fun and there's that or work, you might have to choose work on this day. Sorry to say, but that is true. Okay. So now we have Venus at 20 degrees of Gemini, a cafeteria. These are very interesting. Venus can be a little bit in her nature. It's the law of attraction. She's can be kind of lazy and licentious. There's a voluptuousness about Venus and a little bit of a laziness with Venus. And so she might want to just have bonbons and sit on the couch, right? But she can't, not this day. You can't have you can have bonbons and sit on the couch, but not today. Venus. All right. So the supreme importance of applying reasonable limits to our desire nature. Even in the symbol that Venus is sitting in is warning Venus, don't overdo it. Don't overeat, don't overdrink, don't over anything. Do your work, Venus, do your work. And Saturn at 20 degrees of Pisces, a table set for the evening meal. At the end of our endeavors, we are nourished by whatever we can harvest from our labors and experiences, living with an attitude of gratitude. And so even if it's hard, we have to be grateful for what we have. And what we have can be easy, and what we have can be hard. We need to see the value in both those things. Okay, both those things. All right, I think that's it. Let me just go one more. Yep, okay, well, that's it, guys. I don't know how long I talked. Hopefully, not too long. All right. So just an announcement. Today is Friday, what is today? The 31st. And tonight, I'm going to go on live. I've never done a live, so just, bear with us. Owner and I are going on live. We are going to be starting a new podcast called the Mystic Sisters Podcast. We don't really know what we're doing yet, so we're going to get on tonight. We're going to discuss it. Maybe you can give us some ideas of the things that you would be interested in. We have some ideas of what we want to do with this podcast or maybe channel. We're having a discussion tonight. We're talking about our plans, and that is probably going to happen within the next week or so anyway, because with all this Gemini energy, and Gemini rules siblings. So I thought, why not do it with all this Gemini energy, the Mystic Sisters podcast. So you can keep your eyes peeled for that. I think we're gonna actually, let me see what she said. It's either going to be 7 or, let me see what she said. We're going to do it at 8 p.m. because she said I can pick. So we're going to go live tonight. I think on my channel, me and Ona, and I think we can do that. Oh my God, I have no idea what I'm doing. Well, anyway, I'm nervous. You'll be good to me, though, I know. All right, so see you later. I hope you enjoy this. Like and subscribe. If you want a reading, I do have availability. I'm going to be on Sue Lynn's channel in June. So usually if I'm on her channel, I get real busy. So if you're interested in getting a reading, I have availability now. You can, for even if you don't want to do it right now, you want to do it next month, the next month, there are appointments there for you. That all the links are below. I love you guys. Thanks very much, and I'll see you later. Okay. Ciao. Namaste.